So, let's talk about theoretical neuroscience. It's this incredible field dedicated to one thing, cracking the code of the human brain. And how do they do it? Well, they're translating biology into the language of math to try and make sense of the most complex object in the entire known universe.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. And honestly, the scale is just mind-blowing. Think about it. Your brain has 86 billion neurons and trillions of connections. How on earth do you even begin to translate that into the language of math? I mean, how do you write the rules for a machine like that? That, right there, is the grand challenge.
You could think of it like this. Scientists are trying to reverse engineer the brain's operating system. It's not just about mapping the hardware, the actual cells and wires. It's about figuring out the software, the fundamental principles that let you think and learn and experience reality.
And that's the key, right? The brain isn't just a bag of cells. It's a dynamic network that's constantly processing information. So the goal here isn't just to describe what the cells look like, but to find the mathematical laws that explain what they do. It's a hunt for the hidden algorithm inside the biology.
Okay, if you really want to get a sense of the scale here, just look at this number, over 100,000. That's how many inputs a single Purkinje cell in your cerebellum can get. And remember, that's just one cell out of 86 billion. Trying to model that kind of crazy parallel connectivity, well, that's exactly why you need some seriously heavy-duty mathematical tools.
So, with a problem this complex, where do you even start? Well, in a lot of scientific fields, progress really kicks off with a foundational text, a book that lays out the roadmap. For theoretical neuroscience, that book is Theoretical Neuroscience by Peter Dayan and Larry Abbott. It's basically required reading in all the top programs. And the book breaks down the problem in a really logical way. You can see it here. It builds from the ground up. Part 1 is all about encoding and decoding. Like, how does a neuron turn light or sound into an electrical signal? Then Part 2 moves on to neurons and circuits, modeling the physics of the cells and how they talk to each other. And finally, Part 3 gets to the really cool stuff, adaptation and learning. That's how the connections change over time, which is basically the whole secret behind memory.
This quote from the book really nails the mission of the entire field. It's not just about describing what the brain does. It's about finding the general principles of how it works. It's this deep search for the universal laws that govern computation in the brain. Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this look like in practice? Let's take a peek inside a real-world program. We're going to look at the curriculum at Columbia University's Center for Theoretical Neuroscience, which is one of the absolute best places to study this stuff.
And what do you know? A typical semester pretty much follows the textbook structure. In September, students start with the absolute basic building block, a single neuron. By October, they're scaling up to whole networks. Then in November, they get into how these networks actually learn, and by December, they're tackling really complex stuff like decision-making. It's this beautiful logical journey from a single spark to a thinking machine. And check this out. You see the same top experts teaching these core concepts every single year. You've even got Larry Abbott himself, one of the authors of the textbook. This kind of consistency tells you there's a real consensus in the field about what you absolutely need to know to get started.
All right, let's get into the toolkit. What is the actual mathematical language these scientists are using to describe the brain? What are the essential skills you'd need to master to work in this field?
Here's a great example, straight from the syllabus: reinforcement learning. Now, you might have heard of this from the world of AI. It's where a system learns by trial and error. If an action gets a reward, it's more likely to do it again. Well, neuroscientists use this exact framework to model how our own brains learn from consequences. It's this perfect bridge connecting AI and our understanding of the brain.
So with these tools, researchers build two different kinds of models that work together. You've got descriptive models, which stick really close to the data to figure out what neurons are doing, and then you have abstract models, which try to create a bigger theory for how they're doing it. You absolutely need both to make any real progress.
And underneath all of this is a ton of math. I mean, look at this list. It's straight from a Columbia course description. You need to be solid on everything from calculus and linear algebra to differential equations and probability. This is not biology with a little math on the side. This is a deeply quantitative science through and through. Which brings us to a really important question. Why? Why go to all this trouble? Why build these incredibly complicated mathematical models of the brain? What's the point? Yeah. What is the big picture here? Where does all this abstract theoretical work actually lead in the real world?
Well, the impact is huge, and it really spreads across three big areas. First, it's pushing artificial intelligence forward. giving us a blueprint for how to build smarter machines. Second, it's helping us understand our own minds, how we think, remember, and make decisions. And finally, and this is critical, it's helping us model neurological diseases so we can find new ways to treat them.
And that leaves us with one last really big thought to chew on. The ultimate dream of this field is to write down the mathematical laws of the brain. So if they ever do it, if we can actually write the equations that govern the brain, does that mean we'll have finally, truly understood the mind?